In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to set up a vinyl cutter and also how to cut out some simple artwork. Now, your vinyl cutter that came with the software will usually work out of the box. You don't normally have to set any settings. However, you may have to set the comport and you may want to calibrate your cutter as well, because things like laser offset and that can change between models, and it can also, the blade offset may need to be adjusted, and even the scale of the cutter could be incorrect or slightly out. So all these things are very easy to do. It's just a matter of knowing where to go. So I'll show you where that is. If you click on this drop down here, you've got this vinyl spooler. This is where all our settings are. I can also access that from the file menu and click here. And when I do that, the vinyl spooler comes up. We come to this connection tab and we can see we've got all these settings here for our particular cutter. And at the moment I've just got a standard vinyl cutter installed. I can remove that by clicking this button. If I click add, I can also add additional cutters. And I've got this button here which is some advanced settings. I'll show you that in a moment. Most cutters that come with this software will work on direct comport. It's very unusual that you'd ever change that. So direct comport is what you'll normally need. The next thing you'll need to do is actually set the comport number. To do that, you come up to System, you click on Device Manager, you go to Ports, and you'll see what comport number your cutter is set to. If you're in doubt, click Auto Detect and follow through these instructions. Okay, turn off your device, click Next, turn on your device, Next, blah blah, and it will actually find your cutter for you and tell you what comport number it's set to. Depending on the model you've got, some models will actually work on 19.2 and 38.4. These settings will be changed by default for the cutter you have. If, however, for some particular reason your model is different, what you do is you click this Detect button here and you follow through these instructions. You basically click Next and you read this through, you click Next, ready to cut, etc, etc. Follow that through. You may have to click this 10 times, but the wizard will actually find your cutter, it will work out what settings it's using and set it all up for you. It's as simple as that. Okay, that's all you need to do. If you want to do a test cut, I recommend you come to Repeats, click on Test Cut. I'll show you in the preview what that looks like. It's quite small. Doesn't use much vinyl up, and you can also put a pen in your cutter, or you could just take the blade out if you wanted to. So that's how you find your cutter. Now, some of those advanced settings, if you click this button here, you'll see here, I'll just go to all settings, you've got some quite some advanced settings here. For example, you've got HPGL, like the device languages. There's a lot of these here that you can select from. Your start and end commands, whether or not it's a laser pointer cutter, the units you're working with. I mean, it goes on and on. Normally you would not change any of these settings, and I recommend that you don't. If you're in doubt, contact tech support. The guys there will help you set these settings, and they'll even log into your computer if need be. So generally you won't need to adjust those. They're there if you need them. Another thing I mentioned before was calibration. For example, the blade offset. You can see here if the blade offset's wrong, you see the results here, it's terrible. If it's correct, you can see how sharp this is. This is a very small letter, so you can see how good a accuracy you can get if you have your blade offset correctly configured. And you can perform the calibration here by following this through. Again, cutter scale. This, if your cutter is not cutting exactly the right size, so if you've got, say, I don't know, a 10-inch by 10-inch square or a 300mm by 300mm square and it's not cutting accurately, come in here, follow through these instructions, and that way you can calibrate your cutter or your scale. And you can set your laser offsets, etc. there. There's some advanced tools here. There's some more lessons on this that you can watch later on, but this is where you access all this, and it's important to know where to go, and this is where you go. So once you've got your cutter installed and cutting, the next thing is how do you cut? Well, it's pretty simple. I'll just open up a job here. So this is a good example that I want to cut out. That's fine. All I need to do is come up here and click this button here, and the send to be cut module loads up. Now in this preview you can immediately see these dimensions are in red. What that's telling you is that this file is not going to cut. It's too big for the vinyl cutter I've got. So what I can do is click rotate, and you can see the dimensions go back to black, which indicates that yes, this will cut out. Okay, so it's important to know that your actual job's going to fit onto your vinyl. Okay, other options I've got here are things like mirror and advance after plot. Advance after plot is cut this all out, then push it out so I'm ready to cut the next job. That's what that's talking about. Absolute position, what that's referring to is where it's actually positioned on the page itself. You can see that by using absolute position, it's positioning it to where it is on the page. Now, that's fine if you need to do that. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. If you check that off and come to the settings here, I can actually position exactly where I want to cut it by typing in or entering some measurements there, and you can see it's moving exactly 1 inch by 1 inch off, or 25mm by 25mm. Here I can set my weed box offset. The moment I got set to 1/4 of an inch, and I can reset these things here. Perforation cut, this is about pouncing and scoring card, etc. Not going to go into that now. You can look at another lesson for that. Now, as I showed you in the vinyl spooler, there are things like the blade offset here. You can set force and down speed. Some cutters will actually, this will grow depending on what cutter you've got. And you can change these settings here if you need to. Now, the other thing you can do here is separate this artwork by colour, because obviously, as you can see in the job, it's got quite a few colours in there. So if you check this box here, separate by colour, you can see we get a preview of all our individual colours, like so. So it depends on what you're doing, but that's how you colour separate. Registration marks, pretty straightforward. That just puts a registration mark in each corner. Obviously it uses a lot more media, but it means that when you're on site putting the sign together, you can simply line these registration marks up with the different colours, and it'll lay out perfectly. So it depends on the job you're doing or the artwork you've got, whether or not you'd use registration marks. And I've got other options like auto weed box, which puts that weed box around at the 1/4 inch offset. I'll show you speed weed with text. I just want to show you that. So I just cancel out of this. I'll go to page 2 here. You can see I've got this text. So I'll send that to the send to be cut module, and you can see the text comes up. Now, if I zoom in a little bit, you can see I've got auto speed weed, and when I put that on, actually I'll zoom back out to show you that. You can see here that there's a weed box around with this line that goes through. It's a very, very handy thing to have. I can turn that off. And easy lift weed marks. Now, I will zoom in for those. You can see when I turn those on, you see these little nicks that are made here. I'll turn them off. They're gone. And when I'll turn them back on, so all the holes of this text have this little easy lift mark put in there. What that means is when I go to weed, I can actually flick these out. So I can greatly reduce my weeding time using this tool here. Weld text, what that's talking about is where text overlaps itself, and you want to weld that out so you're not getting a cut inside the text itself, and you can speed weed text only as well using that checkbox there. So that's how the text tools work, or the text options work in the send to be cut module. Now I'll just go back to the main job again. I just want to show you what happens now when I actually do send this to the vinyl spooler. So I've got some options here. Okay, you've got these colours, and I mainly want to cut out this green, for example. So I can simply click cut now, and that'll load it directly into the vinyl spooler, as you can see in the preview. If I click yes here, my cutter will immediately start cutting. Okay, so that's how I cut a single colour. If I want to cut all of these colours together, what I can do is click spool all, and you can see it loads in the vinyl spooler, and I've got all these colours ready to go. So I can go and load that colour into my vinyl cutter, and click cut now, and click cut that out, and then I can come in and click this colour, cut now, and cut that out, and that'll all go into my done queue when I'm finished. So that's how you cut multiple colours out. So that's how you set up a cutter and how you cut out some artwork. And that's the end of this lesson. Thank you.